Hey everyone, I hope this is working. If anyone is there, can you please tell me if you can hear me? Because I just had some issues with my microphone. So if you can tell me whether or not you have sound, because now I'm filming on my phone since that computer setup didn't work. So I'm just going to wait for a moment. Oh, hey Rochelle. Oh, thank you. Okay, good. Yeah. So how's everyone doing? Yeah, so I'm gonna look over there to see the chat. I have YouTube open there and I'm gonna film on my phone. So bear with me. Anyway, so happy Sunday. Hello, everyone. And I hope you had a good week despite everything. And yeah, today what I want to do is a VR to Lisa Papez, who did the Tarot FAQ, frequently asked questions. And I saw that and I thought these are some really cool questions. And yeah, I'm going to do this as a live because that just saves me a lot of time uploading and that makes it so much easier. So let's see. Okay, Rochelle. Okay, so, well, let's see. I'm just going to start and people can watch later what they missed. Okay, so we have 4 categories here. We've got deck preferences, buying and backing decks, reading style, and reading for clients. So let's start with deck preferences. First question, what are your thoughts on illustrated minors versus pips? Well, I definitely prefer illustrated decks. Although my very first 78 card deck was a pip deck, which I didn't know when I bought it. It was sealed. And it was actually the Witch's Tarot, or also known as the James Bond Tarot. And that is a pip deck where you don't really see much in the cards. And so when I started learning with this deck, I always needed a book. And so that was my very first experience with tarot. And so things got better when I got my first illustrated deck. And so I could actually see something in the images, and I prefer that very much. And I think I have like 3 pip decks altogether in my over, I guess, around about 50 tarot decks maybe that I have. And oh, hi Jane. We're not doing readings today. I'm just doing a VR, but you're welcome to stay and hang out with us. Yeah, so I prefer definitely the illustrated decks where I have images that I can just, that just triggers some either memories or some thoughts. So yeah, I prefer that. But yeah, I bought a pip deck specifically. I would call this one a pip deck. And since I don't really do tarot journals, like there's just no point in trying because I never finish. I never stick with it. So I bought this deck and I am going to use this as a tarot journal. I'm actually going to write on the cards. And that idea is not from me. I got this from watching the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And they showed one of the Golden Dawn tarot decks. And they were actually writing notes all over the cards, whether it was keywords or something that they, like ideas they had in the moment when they were doing readings and things like that. And so I've been starting to do that with my Haunted House Tarot. I actually wrote notes in various places on each of the cards. And I still continue doing that. Like when I watch other readers, and when they say something about a specific card that I hadn't thought of before, then I'm gonna write. I'm gonna take a note on my cards. So yeah. Okay, next question. How do you feel about keywords on decks? Well, I kind of just got into that. I like them. I have decks that I specifically use with the keywords. For example, the stretch tarot. When I use that for past life readings, I look at the keywords first. I have my Röhrig tarot. This one has keywords on it, and also notes of the artist that he took while he was creating these cards. And yeah, I actually like that. To me, this is, yeah, these are kind of like journals in a way. It's not just cards, but there's a lot in them that I can get out of these keywords, and they can like jumpstart other ideas and trains of thoughts. Yes, that is the biggest deck that I have, and even the reprint that just came out a while ago is still the same size. That's like really big. But the cardstock is more like paper stock. It's like really thin. That's the only downside to this deck, but otherwise, I love this. It's hard to shuffle, but yeah, I love this deck. One of my soul decks. Okay, so next question. How do you feel about borders? If I can, I cut them off. I just recently did that with my Cosmic Tarot by Norbert Lösche. And to me, the cards now look a lot better. Especially, I'm drawn to cards that have like a comic book style art. And to me, looking at this, just like that without the borders, it gives me some kind of comic book style vibe, and I really enjoy that. Also, then they are a lot smaller and easier to shuffle in a lot of cases. And the only thing, like most of the times, the backs, they don't really line up. So I have some white lines here, but who cares as long as the front looks pretty. So yeah, if I can cut them off, I will. And sometimes they're just distracting me, like a huge white border, or one deck where I wish that they would re-release it. Like Los Scarabeo, they've actually done that, re-releasing some of their decks without borders, and I wish they would do that with their actual Los Scarabeo tarot, because here it's just like there's an outside border, then you have an inner border, and then you've got all those languages. So if I cut all of that off, 1/3 of the card will be gone, and then it's just a mini deck. So this is one that I hope they will redo, but I don't know if they're going to. But yeah, so if possible, I will cut the borders off. And if I'm unsure of what it's going to look like, I take pictures of the cards and then put them into my computer, and then I just Photoshop the borders off to see if I like it. I've done that with my Mystical Manga Tarot, where I wasn't quite sure how I would trim that off, because in the border there are some like stars and some other things. And so I did 3 different ways of doing that, and then decided on one based on what I like better. And that way I can kind of cut the border without going into the card and ruining it. And so, yeah, if anyone is unsure of whether they want to cut the borders off or not, taking a picture, maybe, or just printing it out and then cutting it off, see how you like it. That's probably the safest way to go. Oh, hey, Amy. Yeah, illustrations are my thing. Let's see. What makes you decide to modify a deck? Well, mostly the borders. I have edged one deck. I did that with a metallic marker. That was an Oracle deck. And I was about halfway through as the marker kind of ran out of ink or paint. And so that ended up not looking uh, good. And so I regretted it even before I was done. And so edging is not something that I'm going to continue doing. I'm just going to stick to cutting off the borders and that's it. And yeah, writing notes onto the cards, that's also something that I will do now. And I consider that modifying the deck. Yeah, that definitely helped me with the Photoshop thing, because otherwise, some of the decks are expensive, and even if they are mass market, uh, some of them are quite pricey. And so, just printing it out, cutting it off, different options, and see how you like it. That's probably the safest bet, even to save money. Okay, and last question in that category: what kind of cardstock is your favorite? I think if I had to compare, I really like the Low Scarabeo cardstock because it's easy to shuffle, riffle shuffle. It bends, but it doesn't stick to, like, if I bend it all the way, it doesn't stay like that. I don't like cardstock that is so thick that I can't riffle shuffle it. So yeah, I think the Low Scarabeo cardstock is probably my favorite. Okay, next category, buying and backing decks. Where do you look for new decks that you want to buy? I guess the first address for me would be Amazon. And I have bought one deck on Etsy. And I recently bought a deck that was a Kickstarter campaign, but I saw it after the campaign was finished. So I got it directly from the creator's website. And that should be here sometime beginning of next year. But yeah, like Amazon is my number one address, or I've got some stuff on Book Depository as well. And that's pretty much it. Um, your best or worst crowdfunding Kickstarter experience? Well, since I have never backed anything on Kickstarter, I can't really speak to that. I don't have any experience with that, so I'll have to pass on that one. Next one. How do you decide what decks to buy or to back? Well, the first thing for me is whether the artwork appeals to me. Um, yeah, and like in the beginning when I started buying a lot of decks, like in 2018 or even last year, a lot of it was seeing it on other channels and seeing like, oh, that deck is so pretty, I want to have it as well. And then I would get a lot of those decks. And now it's more like, okay, it's really pretty, but will I actually use it or is it just going to sit on my shelf? And so now pretty is the first thing where I actually look into the deck. And if I see what I like all the way, then I'm going to start thinking, okay, do I have a purpose for it? What kind of readings would I be using it for? Do I have maybe another deck that I could pair it with? Because I like doing readings where I have um, more than one deck to like lay out the spread with one deck and then maybe do the same spread with a second deck as clarifiers or different viewpoints, things like that. So I'm looking for something that I can combine. Or if I buy a tarot deck, thinking, do I have an oracle deck that matches that? Or if I buy an oracle deck, I'm looking for, or I'm looking at my collection and like, do I have a tarot deck that this could go hand in hand with? So that I build a collection that kind of works together. And yeah, I don't want to buy more decks that are just going to sit on my shelf. I have some of those that I've never used. For example, the Spirit Within Tarot, it's pretty, it's beautiful, but I've never worked with it before. I didn't feel called to it. Or the Fenestra Tarot. I got it. It's pretty. I like the art style. I like the anime manga art style, but I've never worked with it. And so I think soon, maybe next year, I might actually let go of some decks that I'm not working with because they're just sitting on my shelf and yeah, I don't really know what to do with them. Yeah. Hi, Anjali. I hope I pronounced that right. Okay. Mm, how much is too much to spend on a deck? I guess that's a personal decision that everyone has to make for themselves. For me, my budget is like $50, and that's where I say, okay, that's too much. Like even for the out of print decks that I bought, I never paid more than 50. The only exceptions would be if I get a deck that, because of shipping and postal custom fees, whatever, comes to more than $50. I've had that. Uh, I think my art history tarot for past lives, also because I got it with the guidebook and the workbook, and then shipping and custom fees, postal fees, everything that made it twice as expensive. Or I just like the deck that I got that used to be a Kickstarter campaign, and I got it with shipping costs that got it to 57 something, so it's a little bit over budget. But yeah, shipping cost can really go higher. My hobbies, um, I don't know if I would call tarot a hobby, but studying that kind of stuff is definitely a hobby because I do it in my free time. And yeah, I guess studying astrology, tarot, all of that, like the theoretical stuff, and opera, like watching opera, ballet, things like that, hobbies. So, side question. Hi, Steve. Okay, so where was I? Oh, how much to spend? I guess the only deck where I would go a little bit over budget is the unicorn for me. That's the Tildwick Tarot. I haven't been able to get it anywhere. I hope they will do a reprint. I'm not sure if they will. I missed out on that one. But even with that, I wouldn't pay a ridiculous amount of money. Like I've seen it go for 500, $600 on eBay, and that's nowhere near anything that I'm willing to pay. Like $50 is usually my uh, limit. Okay, next question. Do you have deal breaker cards? And if so, what are they? One of the deal breaker cards for me is the strength card. And I guess the, for example, in the Mythic Tarot or New Mythic Tarot, here it looks like he's hurting the lion. Like he's obviously fighting it. And me being the cat lady, I don't like the cat being hurt, even if it's a lion. And so nowadays, the strength card is the one that I look at. And I would much rather prefer something like this from the Haunted House Tarot. There's not even a cat in here, but the reflection in the mirror, that is really nice. Or in the Initiatory Golden Dawn, the woman with the, is that a lion? Yeah, I think it's a lion. Together. Or one of my favorites in the Lo Scarabeo Tarot, where she is really gentle with the lion and he's not doing anything to her. So yeah, that's like one of my favorite strength cards. And I guess another card would be the Ten of Swords, probably. Um, there's this one deck, something with forest in the name, with these cute animals, like the rabbits, the sheep, cats and the frogs, if anyone remembers that name. And the Ten of Swords, the swords are the cats. And so in the Ten of Swords, all the swords are in the cat, and that is something that I just can't see. That just breaks my heart. And yeah, I I like that deck. I think it's really cute, with the exception of that one card. So I would never get it. Yeah, strength should be a gentle card. You're right, Amy. So yeah, I don't like it when it's like brutal strength. I think there's also one in the what do I have here? I think in this deck, the Wheel of the Year. Um, I think where it's not a lion, it's a bull, and he's going up against that animal and fighting it with like physical strength. And yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. Oh, thank you. I've never been to India, but that would be interesting. Okay, next category, reading style. Do you have a daily tarot practice? And if not, when do you read for yourself? I have kind of a daily tarot practice nowadays. I don't read every day, but at least every other day. And for me, I think what works best is always having at least one deck right next to me on the table so that I can grab it whenever I want. And what I do a lot of times is when I watch YouTube videos and I see someone show a spread, then I will just grab my cards and I will try that out alongside that video. Or I will read my cards when I see something based on current events, just to look into the situation and see what my cards tell me, just for practice, just for fun, if I can pick up anything through the cards. Or sometimes I have my bestie calling me, and all of a sudden he'd be like, "Yeah, can you look into that?" And I'm like, "Hang on," shuffling the cards, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I see." So I would do a reading right there on the phone. And yeah, so it's good to always have a deck right next to me. And right now I actually have like 3, 4 decks always next to me, and kind of switching in between. And yeah, I don't draw a daily card in the morning. I just like, sometimes when I have a question about something that concerns me, whether it's work or just like, okay, why am I thinking this way? From like using it in the psychology kind of sense, exploring my own thoughts. That's when it's good to just have a deck there, and I'll just grab it. And there's no specific ritual that I do. I don't have a specific time when I do it. It's just whenever I want to. Mm, okay, what's your go-to shuffle style? I like to riffle shuffle 3 times, and then I'll just overhand shuffle, and I will do that until either something falls out, or when I get some kind of a shiver, then I know, okay, that's the card I want to pick. And that's really it. How do you choose which deck you're going to work with? Um, I guess most of the time I'm just going with whatever I feel drawn to. Right now I'm working with the Haunted House Tarot, and I've been working with that one since the end of September, and I think I will continue to work with that one for quite a while. I also have my Initiatory Golden Dawn / Ludi Lescott hybrid that I'm working with. And I just recently started working with my Barbieri tarot, some thing that I can't speak. I haven't worked with this one before because some of the cards are not really like the typical RWS system that we know. Some are a bit different. So that's why I haven't worked with it yet, but I'm kind of getting into that right now. And I'm also starting to work with my Atlantis Tarot at the moment, because some of the readings that I was watching on other people's channels that I found really interesting are some 18 plus readings, and I also got a deck from one of the um, readers. She brought out her own deck, and it's called the Hermit Tarot. That's also her channel name. And she took the like sentiments of the cards and just put them in sentences along with the numbers that we know from the three devil cards in this deck. So there are no court cards, I believe. Yeah, it's definitely not a deck for kids, but it's really interesting the kind of readings that this deck can give. So I'm kind of looking into that right now. And yeah, I think a lot of times I just look at, okay, what kind of topic do I want to read on? And then, okay, what deck would fit that topic? Because I have decks that are better for like love readings. I have decks that go better with financial and work stuff. So yeah, it's based on the topic and based on what kind of pictures I like to see on that day. Yeah, that is a cool deck. That's really cool. But it's more than the 78 cards, so it's a bit hard to shuffle if you have short fingers like me. But yeah, it's definitely a cool deck. And her pick a card readings are really good. Um, do you purchase professional readings for yourself? Yes, I do that. I have gotten some readings from people in our community, and I have also gotten readings like back in, I think it was like 2009, 2010. That was a time in my life when I was making some changes in my life, going from university into the work life, and there were some things going on that I struggled with. And I did go to a therapist who didn't really help me. And so having a tarot reader and an astrologist um, helped me figure stuff out, but not in a way that they would tell me, okay, this is what you need to do, or the cards are telling me this, and then it's set in stone. It was very much in a way that they would help me find the answers myself and really bring me to a place where, okay, I have to make that decision. They could maybe tell me, okay, you can go this way, and then maybe that could be the outcome, or you can do this, and then maybe that can happen. Um, so yeah, in the end, it was all my choice, and I would never let anyone take away my free will. But in a lot of ways, the astrologer and the tarot reader back then helped me come to terms with some big questions that I had. And in that sense, it helped me more than that therapist. And yeah, I wish I would have had a better therapist, honestly, because I didn't really get much out of it. So yeah, but I do purchase professional readings, and I would always continue to do that if there is something where I think, okay, I'm too close to the topic that I can't be objective. I think that's when I go to someone else. If I can't be objective, if I'm not able to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, then I'm going to go to someone else. Yeah, I used to do that too. I should continue doing that. Like I have a journal where I would write down all the readings that I did for other people with like date and time and sometimes even the moon phases. And so that later I could, especially for like family members, it was easy to see what happens. And then I could see if what I told them was accurate. That was in the beginning stages when I actually learned reading. Okay, next question. Do you use tarot for anything other than divination? Well, I use tarot for past life readings. And for me, that is a form of self discovery. I wouldn't put that into the category of divination. And it's more specifically to work on some issues that I might have where I feel stuck, like I can't get past something. And through a past life reading, putting it into a different perspective. One example I can give is in this life, I don't have my father around. I never met him. My mom got divorced before I was 2 years old, so I have no memory of him. And I always ask myself, okay, why doesn't he want to be part of my life? And so in a past life reading, I came into a story of a soldier who had a father that was like very, um, he was like the big patriarch of the family. He would call the shots, even right down to arranging the marriage for his son, which would have been me in that case, and like really saying what my life would be like, where I wouldn't really have the freedom to choose and to find my own path. And now I have the complete opposite. And I think because he's not part of my life, that's the reason why I am where I am today. And that's the reason why I turned out the way that I did. And yeah, so having those complete opposites, looking at that and then asking myself, okay, would I want my father in my life? Would I like, how would my life be different if he was there? And that through the past life reading helped me come to terms with that and realizing it's actually a good thing that he's not in my life. That doesn't mean that he might not love me. I don't know. And in the sense of having soul contracts before we get here, all of this may have been pre planned, and this is always how it was supposed to be. So, yeah, I think everything worked out for the better, for the best. Like, yeah, I think because of that reading, I was able to see that. So, and otherwise, divination, I think I use tarot more in a reflective kind of way to see, okay, how did I get here? Or if I'm reading for someone else, how did we get to this point? And how can, like, what would be possible options of what to do, but not reading in a sense like, okay, this is going to happen and this is going to happen and that's the way it goes. And like, there's no room for alternatives. And yeah. Yeah. Okay, that was this category. The next one, or the last one, is reading for clients. So how did you know you were ready to read for clients? I never had this specific moment where I said, okay, now I'm ready. Because since I started reading, like I picked up my first tarot deck in 1999, my Sailor Moon Tarot. And as soon as I had it, and I was very open among my like mom and grandma, my uncle, everyone in my family. They knew that I had it. They knew that I was studying with that. And so, of course, right away, the questions came, hey, can you do a reading for me? And so even in those initial moments where I was still learning, I was asked for readings and I used that as practice. And then when I got my next tarot deck, I would just have that with me. And then Christmas dinner was done. Someone said, hey, can you do a reading for me? And even though I was reading like from a book because I was still learning, I was doing readings for family members. And then pretty soon friends started asking for readings. And so I never had this moment where I'm like, okay, I'm going to study this for a year and then I'm going to start reading for other people. It just kind of happened at the same time. And so I never had to ask myself the question, am I ready? Because I've just always been doing it. Like whenever I had cards with me, someone would ask me for a reading. Do you do anything special to set up for a client reading or for yourself? No, I actually don't. I have read wherever I was. I've read in offices, conference rooms, at the kitchen table, at like in the living room, at the coffee table, in the garden, wherever. If I have a deck of cards with me and if someone is asking for a reading, I'll just do it right then and there. So I don't have like a special setup or anything to like get into the mood. No, I just read wherever. Or when I'm on the phone and someone is asking me, hey, can you do a reading? Then I'll just throw down the cards and we'll do a reading. Hi, B. Yeah, so I don't have like a special setup. Do you let clients handle the cards or do you do it all? Well, in the beginning stages, since I was still learning, I thought it would be best if I just give the cards to the person that I was reading for and have them shuffle them. And I would always tell them, shuffle them until you have the feeling that they're now in the order that they need to be in. And then they would give me the cards back, and then I would just do my Celtic cross in the beginning. And yeah, I would just read whatever they shuffled. And then I think it was like in 2003, 2004, I had a friend on the phone and she was crying. She was like kind of in a bad situation with her boyfriend. And so she was asking me, hey, can you do a reading? And that was the first time I was doing a reading from a distance. And I saw that that worked. So that was the first time that I shuffled the cards for someone else. I didn't have anyone do that who wanted the reading, and then I saw, yes, this works, and so now I'm at a point where I shuffle the cards and I do the reading like that. But sometimes, if I know the person very well, I might give them the cards and say, okay, you put your energy into the deck, and because I feel like if I'm too close to them, feels like maybe I might be getting my own energy in there. And so it's, yeah, I just want to make sure that they're reading and not mine. I'm not projecting anything. And so that would be the only instance nowadays where I would give them the cards. Otherwise, I would just shuffle, especially now with like online readings and yeah, doing it from a distance. There's no way I can give the client the cards. So I have to do it myself. Mm. Are there any questions you would refuse to answer? So I guess for me, what I would refuse to answer are legal issues, especially when it's about the outcome. I'm not going to predict anything. I'm not going to go into health reasons. We have doctors for that. I'm not going to give anyone health advice. And I wouldn't do financial readings, like predicting stock market or something, giving someone advice on where to invest money. I wouldn't do that. Like for that, we have financial advisors. So anything that's kind of predictive in that sense, I'm not going to do. So yeah, those are my boundaries. Hmm. And the last question, any advice for people who want to start reading professionally? Well, practice, practice, practice. That's the first one. And I guess the biggest thing for me, even today, after so many years, is to not stop learning. Never stop learning, because I learn something new through every book that I read. I learn something new through all the videos that I watch on YouTube, hearing other people's perspectives on how they work with the cards, getting new ideas on how to improve my own readings, whether it's different spreads, different ways of combining things, different meanings that the cards can have. Yeah, just different things you can do with the cards that other people have tried and for them it worked, so they're sharing. Yeah, so never stop learning. I guess that's probably the best thing for any reader, whether you're a beginner or whether you've been reading for 20 or 50 years. This is not something where you can say, okay, now I read 3 books and now I know it all. That's just not happening. Do you cleanse your cards after people touch them? What I would do is I would reset them. So when someone worked with a deck of cards, as long as they were working for it, I would leave them in that order. And if I gave them to someone else, or if I would read for someone else, then I would put them back in the original order from the Fool all the way to the King. I think the Cups were the last, so the King of Cups would be the last card, putting them into the order again. And yeah, I think if I'm just working with the cards, I'm just gonna like knock on the cards and then do the next reading. And every once in a while, I will put them back in order and do like a reset. But yeah, I've never really done any like Palo Santo stuff. I have a witchy cabinet where I have some herbs and stuff in there. So sometimes I would just put them in there and just let that whole like aura of the herbs kind of get into the cards, which also makes them smell really good. And yeah, but I don't really Palo Santo them or anything. Yeah. So that was actually the last question, and it's been 41 minutes. Is it weird that I have certain way that my cards? Cups, swords, pentacles. Yeah. Yeah, I think the order that I have is based on that book that I used alongside my first deck. And that was like each sword had a season assigned to them. Swords was spring, summer was wands, pentacles, fall, and cups, winter. And that just stuck with me, and that's the order that I have. And in the very beginning, I would also use that to kind of predict when something would happen. Like I would say, okay, in this season, looks like this is going to happen. But yeah, this is the order that I stick with: swords, wands, pentacles, and cups. Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's no real consensus on what the order should be or what it is. Everyone has like a different order. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really work with seasons anymore. Maybe I should start doing that again. I haven't done that in a while because back in the days, people would ask a lot of times, when is something going to happen? But the readings that I do nowadays are more like what and why and how questions. I don't really go into the timelines anymore. Maybe I should practice that again. Inspiration, thought, gestation, manifestation. That's interesting, yeah. Okay, so does anyone have any questions before we close? Otherwise, yeah, it's been nice to see you all here. And yeah, so I don't know when I'm going to do my next video, but since I'm home this week, I might do another one or two. We'll see. Because over here, bye, Amy. Over here, we're in our lockdown again. So yeah, the opera house is closed again. Not much for us to do. So yeah, I'm just staying home for a while. Yeah, well then, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.